Welcome to the Vision Profiles podcast. Join us, three dedicated Apple Vision Pro users, as we dive into everything from hardware and software to apps and the latest updates in the world of Apple Vision Pro. I'm Marty Gensius, a faculty member at a Midwest University, podcaster, and an Apple product fan.
I'm Eric Bolden. I work in IT, but my interest is in finding interesting ways to share content, currently photography of plants, birds, and panoramic sequences.
I'm Daniel Burkholder, a software engineer and technologist currently immersed in generative AI and AR and VR technologies.
Well, I don't know. Today we're going to cover on the show basically Vision Pro news and share some great new apps. Interestingly enough, as we were putting the show notes together, I said to the guys in an email, I said, find us some apps. I need some apps. And when I put the new version of the beta on this afternoon, I started looking, and there were a few of the apps I thought, well, okay, because I hadn't opened up the show notes. I thought, well, these are ones I can talk about, and sure enough, you put those apps in there. So we're thinking alike. I tried one of them out and really enjoyed it. And it might have been one that we've talked about before or mentioned. I'm not sure, but it is considered kind of a new app to really look at. So that's coming up in the latter part of the show. Anything new this week? Anything that you'd like to share? Anything that looks like orange Crocs?
That did it. That was my cue. A little slow on the uptake. Yeah. Very nice, relaxing, orangey color. Came in. Oh, I should get the other part of that. And then the battery, bring that over here. Where's that reveal part? Whoosh. There it goes. Orange and orange.
I gotta say, I'm happy you two are happy with it. I couldn't. I just never could.
Oh, hang on a minute. We should see, how bad is it if you go to the coffee shop?
Yeah, so for anyone not watching, it's D Brand who makes this, right?
Yeah, D-Brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
And-
looks like Venom shot a web all over your Vision Pro screen.
Oh, I love it.
But it's orange webbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is it's interesting because at least it doesn't matter on the battery pack. They have a clip for the battery pack with the same design. Eric has the orange version. I went with the more after hours version of black. And the holes are cut on the screen cover to replicate or open up where all the sensors are. So it's not just some wild Swiss cheese pattern that they have on it. It's open for the cameras and the sensors to be able to have access through this cover. Now, Eric, I can't help but notice that you had the D brand cover on your Vision Pro, and on top of that, you still used the Vision Pro cover that came with it. So you wrapped that sucker twice. Is maybe
Well,
one way to say.
yeah, because I've got a large dog, a cat, various obstacles. I just want to make sure it's still there when I get done. But it is very convenient when I'm actively using it and taking it on and off. Then I don't have to add the extra. I feel much better about, if I accidentally, knock it off of the counter or whatever, that it will survive.
Yeah, it's sort of like wearing a toupee on top of a toupee when you have both of those on at the same time. And David Ginsburg, in touch with iOS, he got one too, and he double caps it. Mine sits
Double
on a
bagging.
table, and yeah, Mine sits on a table in the back, and I have not put the external cover on it yet. When I travel, yeah, maybe probably I'll put both on. But right now it sits nice and quiet back there with nothing to disturb it. And I have forgotten how nice it is to not have to take that big cover off each time. It's just
Yeah.
take it, pick it up, put it on your head, and it runs. So, well, it's nice you've got some you can play with and scare off deer in the woods with that bright orange color that you have.
A lot
Big
safer.
news, yeah. Big news this week um, is we have a new beta out. Just happened today, and I don't know if you have had a chance to load it or play with it at all. Um, I am showing for people who are viewing this on YouTube. I'm showing the website from macrumors, who spoke about it after its release. Eric, I'll ask Daniel because we really didn't talk about this. Daniel, have you added the beta yet, or I'd assume no?
No, yeah, I put it on this morning or this afternoon or whatever. I mean, nothing really notable to say, honestly, other than a nice little pop-up that it seems like they forgot to put in the earlier betas
Yeah.
that just say, all four features that are that are in the beta. Um, I hadn't really noticed anything otherwise. The beta's been fine. I think I had actually one hard crash on the first beta, but then since then, that might have been my first hard crash ever.
So, Eric, just curious if you have put the beta on.
Yes, I installed the beta this morning. It was 37 degrees and a little chilly. I installed the beta. It was 67 degrees, sunny, comfortable outside. I couldn't have gotten a better day out of a beta installation if I tried. Yeah, I haven't really had any problems. I've had problems a little bit with the phone with the speaker going out. So if I put get a call and put a speakerphone on, the beta on the phone, the sound cuts out.
Mm-hmm.
I only had one time the App Store quit unexpectedly. I have no idea why. Other than that, mostly okay. I'm hoping that the phone issue will clear up in the release sometime in April.
Where, yeah. One of the things that I saw, and I wanted to check with you guys, and maybe you didn't see it, maybe it was in previous releases, and I didn't see it in previous releases, or maybe it's just a fluke that happened with me. When I first put the headset on after the reboot, and up came the splash screen or a statement. I think it was a screen that said, "You've just upgraded," or something like that when you first put it on. But underneath it said, "If you're a guest in guest mode, press the crown."
Oh,
Yeah, I remember
So,
seeing that. I
s-
I wasn't sure why that showed up, but
yeah, so I'm just wondering if this is a quicker way for people to get into guest mode. That it, if if you just turn it on and you give it to somebody, then they can tell them press the crown, which will then send a signal to your phone or the owner's phone to give them permission to come in. I'd not seen that before on previous beta releases and just didn't know if it was something you had seen and if it was new or if it was just a fluke, like the optical scanner thought I was a guest and then threw that at me, where in the past it didn't.
maybe a little bit
So,
of both, because I didn't have that. I had like a generic welcome to Vision Pro and press the crown button. But to be fair, I haven't tried the new guest mode yet, but I finally was able to get the iOS 18 point 0.4 beta on my phone. I wasn't going crazy from the last time I was on, and I tried to get the beta. Apparently, beta 1 on the iPhone 12, it was causing boot loops, so they stopped signing it. That's why I
Hmm.
couldn't get the 18.4 last time. But I did have my phone all paired up with 18.4 beta 2, but yeah, it didn't ask me about guest mode at all, but probably because I hadn't used it yet. Um,
Yeah. The first thing
When
I
I think
jumped in, yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say it seemed to matter if your phone had been updated to the current beta first. You get a different message. If it hadn't been updated, there wasn't anything. If your phone was updated and ready to go, then you seem to get more
Hmm.
info.
Yeah, I was updating my phone at the same time that I was updating the Vision Pro. And it was, because I'm just visualizing it in my head. It was sitting across the room on a table. And I went and got my phone later, and it's like, welcome to Apple. So,
Hmm.
anyways, I did some scanning and tried to figure out what the new features were. We will have a developer page that, for if you want to geek out on what the issues are. The new features, Apple Intelligence improvements, Spatial Gallery app. That was the first thing I went to. Still can't add my photos into Spatial Gallery. So it just seems to be a spatial commercial for Apple Vision Pro that Apple is putting on as an app. Until it gets interactive, I don't think it's going to mean much to me other than looking at other, beautiful pictures, somebody else's beautiful pictures. And I think I read something on Reddit that's always been the intent of the app. It's not meant to be a gallery that you can add stuff to. So,
hmm.
Well, I think it's helpful also for guest mode. If you don't want to give somebody access to all of your pictures or try to create an album, you can say, hey, go look at this. Here's an example of several different types of spatial.
yeah, with a third of them commercials for Apple TV stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Easier app purchases, new tools in the App Store improves on how in-app purchases work, and then better background performance. Some apps can now update their content in the background more efficiently. So maybe a snappier Safari. Fixes and improvements. A typing fix in the Apple TV app now supports non-Latin characters in the search bar. Better animation in Reality Kit apps. 3D character animations work as expected. Xcode simulator stability. More reliable Swift UI apps. There are still some known issues. Guest users mode may fail if the iOS is not, if it's iOS 18.3 or earlier. So the phone has to be up to an 18.4 to get them on the both on the same beta versions. FaceTime calls on personal hotspot. FaceTime might not work properly when using certain hotspot setups, and the App Store offers might not work. Some discounts might not apply. Um, and some old App Store, what's being removed or changed. Old App Store purchase method is depreciated. Technical change in memory handling is also different. So that was sort of a layman's explanation of what's new with this. But we will have the developer page set up, the developer beta information page for people who want to geek out on the code stuff. That's in that. You can find that in the show notes of this show, whether you're listening to it on a podcast or whether you're watching now or later in YouTube. One of the things that I could not get a good joke about was the fact that macrumors always jumps on these stories when a new beta comes out. And I'm reading it, and it's like, first of all, it's not telling me anything, which is true for most of these same day stories. They don't know. even they say that the Apple's not releasing much on what's going on with this. There's no big, great change that's occurred. So I looked at the article that was macrumors put out on VisionOS 2.4.2 and compared it to the article on that is currently out on VisionOS 2.4.3. Exact same article. Some slight wording changes, but basically it's the same. We don't know anything. Oh, here are the new things, the 4 new things that we've known are in 2.4 already. It's clickbait.
Here's the
So,
question. Does
yeah.
that say more about the Vision Pro or Mac rumors?
I've got to think it's Mac rumors. I mean, if they want to get into the nitty gritty, then write an article using the information from the beta release notes. Don't write a generic article that tells you all of these things that are in there, or don't write the article at all. I mean, unless you're going to really talk about what's new. And what I just covered is probably more than they even thought about in terms of what's new or what changes are. So they even use the same image for both articles of the headset with a 2.4 picture leaning against it, from the previous article on the 2.4.2 to the 2.4.3. Same lead graphic on it. So
I mean,
it's
to be
just very
fair,
weird.
though, the primary piece of information is there was an updated beta that came out, so you can go ahead and install it. If you're working on betas, the content doesn't matter quite as much.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just looking in the chat room. Gurn talks about last Vision OS beta. I kept getting the press the crown to align when I started it, and I did get that on this issue on this time. So, and
Oh,
Eric, you said you didn't. So,
mm-mm.
but I did get that when I initially put the headset on. So, anyways, we'll have the release notes. Any comments on last week's release and the new parts that are in it, and maybe we talk about Spatial Gallery. Any new experience with that? I will take that as a no.
Yeah, I mean, I browsed it, and I did finally also have the image playground appear on mine as well. And of course, you know, I had to generate some horrifying Disney photos versions of me, obviously. Um, yeah, you can really feel the Disney Pixar heritage coming through in in Image Playground.
Playground.
Um, but yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time in it because, I mean, frankly, I don't look to the device for a lot of content. So I'm more looking for software usually, and I was like, okay, cool, it's there, and then I kept going. Now, um, when my partner finally gets his whatever his final script is going to be after post cataract surgery, and he gets to try out the Vision Pro finally, I'll definitely use those apps to demo him into getting some of these experiences really quick, much quicker than going and trying to oh, let's go find something on Apple TV and now just quick bang 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 and show him something cool that's spatial. That's when I'll really be taking a look at it. Honestly, I just need to wait for him to get his script.
Yeah. Eric, anything surprise? I went in today and looked for. I figured they're going to do an update. At least throw a couple of new pictures in Vision in the Spatial Gallery. Nothing new.
Yeah, I didn't see any. I do have to say though, in the last beta, I was having some problems where my eye alignment wasn't quite right. So I would get things where there were certain areas of the screen I couldn't click. I mean, I couldn't look at a button and get it to select. And I'd have to kind of reposition things and whatever. And whatever that issue was, I'm not having it now. Could be I just needed to reboot. Not really sure.
Any more experiences with guest mode? No.
No,
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 not yet.
my guest mode demo person was out of town, so
Yeah, you have a guest mode guinea pig.
yeah. But
I
the
just
range
realized.
was too long. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry,
I
Daniel.
just realized I should. No, I just realized I should put on some contacts actually and try it out myself in the meantime. I just realized I could do that. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Try it out.
Yeah. The I have not found a use for it yet. With guest mode, I need to have people come and actually visit me in order for me to try that out. So I'll be curious to see, Daniel, when your partner has an opportunity to try it for the first time post cataract. I've seen some things on Reddit where people have posted stories about eye conditions that they had, amblyopia and things like that, that seem to be auto corrected for with Vision Pro, which was looking at 3D photos and stuff was impressive for them because of the problems they've had looking at 3D with it in other formats or other ways. Um, Vision Pro app. I'm instead of putting my headset on every day, looking to see what's new in the Vision Pro app store. I open up the app store and find nothing for long periods of time. I open up the app store and instead uh, look at the app store and find nothing new for long periods of time. So I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed in it, and it's not giving me the full search capabilities that I want, or that I hope for. Let's put it that way.
It's not April yet, so
Yeah,
there's time.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fair to call it a minimum viable product there on the phone app. But it'd be cool to see if it will expand to be more like the Watch app and
Mhm.
afford a lot more control
Hmm.
on the side. If it continues, I imagine it will.
Yeah, I mean, I purchased some things through the app, and it's kind of nice. You open up the Vision Pro, and it's there. Um, but it's just not. It's sort of like I want to put some search. Like I'd like to know about sticky notes or something like that that I can put into a search engine and figure out whether a Vision Pro app exists with that. And if it, and then also, is it crossover? Is it in other platforms too? So,
Actually, I know what I want in the Vision Pro app. One feature. They can do one feature, and that'd be it, and I'd be happy for now.
what is
Rearrange
it?
apps.
Oh, so the phone would allow you to do like the sync and rearrange the apps in a way that,
Like you can on like rearranging the CarPlay apps on your phone. I
Or
think you
the
can
watch.
rearrange the watch apps on the
Yep.
phone app. Yeah,
yeah.
it's been a long time since I've had a watch. So yeah, like that. That alone actually that'd be really nice, actually.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree with you there. Folders, but we're not going to see that until 3, probably.
No, we get the one folder that's just forced upon us.
Yeah. But fear not, we'll talk about that later, how the Vision OS 3 is going to save us all. Interesting stories about the delay in Siri. And I'll go to the Daring Fireball. Everybody was talking about how Siri is going to bring this and bring this and bring this. It is still early. It's not April yet, as Eric likes to say. But Daring Fireball article where John Gruber got information from an Apple spokesperson that he was able to identify by name versus other rumor sites and rumor folks that we go to. And I guess they just kind of said, hey, there's a lot that goes into this in getting Siri to act from a contextual way. And with getting Siri to deliver at that level, it's going to take some time. They said might take it's going to take us longer than we thought to deliver on these features, and we anticipate rolling them out in the coming year. So what does that mean? It means probably not April. I hope we see more by April. But the article says when you think of years, you think of years in terms of WWDC. That's sort of when the year clock starts. And so we're looking, and they haven't even announced WWDC yet for this year, but we anticipated, it's usually what, June, and and so I made some predictions that turned out not to be true. That certain things wouldn't come out until June, like the Studio Mac. That it would be announced at WWDC, and sure enough, 2 days later they announced it last week. So, but the hope for me is that there'll be a considerable amount of piece of it done before WWDC. It won't be June, but maybe. Any reactions to Siri and contextual language?
I think the longer it takes, the better. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind if it took 18 more months, because I think it's somewhat complicated to do it in a way where you don't end up with unintended consequences. I mean, there have been enough issues already with um, uh, intelligence systems where you go querying it and people play with it and all kinds of weird stuff gets injected, and you get responses that drift and stuff like that. So if it takes them a little longer because they're waiting for apps to get updated, or if they have to wait until after WWDC to have some new um, elements they can add to apps, I'm fine.
Yeah, and in one of the comments in one of the discussions I read said, people who use Apple products are really brand loyal. They don't really care as much. They're not gonna. It's folks who might not be Apple users that are that in Apple brand focused that are going to be upset about it not happening when they want it to happen. So
Yeah, and I mean, no one else is really doing any better in terms of consumer AI either. And I find that like using LLMs is also a skill in and of itself. Like Google Foo was a skill
yeah,
in a way, right? And I'm actually with a number of my coworkers, I'm kind of coaching them on I'm like seeing how they use it. I'm like, no, you need to try using like this because this X, Y, and Z starts happening, and so and that's talking to technical people,
yeah,
engineers, and so now we're going to shove that in front of everybody else, and in traditional voice assistants you did get their best results kind of talking syntactically to it, which wasn't good. It wasn't a good experience either in that sense, but somehow now we have to bring in the not just the limited set of tasks that these things could do, but like the whole gamut and 400 different ways that somebody's going to ask for the same thing and expect that to happen. I mean, the only thing I just want to end it by saying big data. That's it. Like I don't I don't envy them. But if they do now see this and they're like, yeah, this is harder than it looks with WWDC is usually around June. So I actually wouldn't expect much on the personalized Siri at WWDC. Even if they weren't saying it's taking longer than expected, I actually would expect them to have a lot more about app intents because then they got to give something to developers to go and then noodle on, add all this intelligence into their apps so that Siri can then act on, while they're working on the personalization part on the side.
Well,
Yeah.
I trust you with that kind of thinking. I'll tell you today, I'm in my car and I've got my phone hooked up to it, and I'm driving a colleague of mine, an older colleague of mine, and I'm like, okay, I want to show off. So we passed this sign. We're driving to Warren, Ohio, which is a small town outside of Youngstown. And the sign for Warren, Ohio says, Warren, Ohio, the center of the world. And that's repeated when you drive through Warren, Ohio. And I'm like, hey, Steve, why is it called the center of the world? He goes, I don't know. And so I go, hey, S lady, why is Warren, Ohio called the center of the world? And she thought for a little bit. And I have mine sent to an Australian woman's accent. My Australian woman accent comes back and says, would you like me to send that to Chat GPT? And I said, yes. And so, and I got back an answer of why Warren, Ohio is the center of the world. I'm not going to explain it. To me, it's all relative. It's where you set the things around you. Any city could be, if they set certain boundaries, could be the center of the world. But that's how it got it. I found out how it got its nickname through that. And so the handoff, I'm doing this through CarPlay, from CarPlay from my phone to CarPlay to Siri to ChatGPT, seamless. So something's working there at least. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it develops. Let's see. What else is there? Oh, and there's another article in The Verge that basically quotes most of the stuff from John Gruber and Daring Fireball. So doesn't add a lot to the article. Some Gurman quotes in there too, with the process about Siri taking longer than we thought. Okay. So with all this kind of sad press about the S lady, then we start getting these absolutely wild rumors. They're not even rumors, but they're articles that are coming out. We're going to have a serious upgrade at WWDC in 2025. And this is based on something Gurman spoke about in Bloomberg. And his response was basically to say, hey, hold on. Well, I've got good news. We're going to have some major upgrade when VisionOS 3 comes out. Well, that's like predicting snow's going to fall in Antarctica. Eventually it's going to happen. There's nothing surprising about that. And if it's a full upgrade, then it will have some major changes in it. But no details on what they are, or no details, not even a hint at what the big upgrade's going to be about. So it feels kind of like a cheap trick on readers with this. Reactions?
VisionOS 6 is I'm speechless.
Yeah, and I listened to a discussion on another podcast. It might have been Ken OS. No, it was Apple Insider or something, where the two hosts were saying, well, the rumor mill has changed a lot with Apple because there was some serious leaks, and Apple likes to control their media. And with that, they've been looking for leaks in the in at Apple, and those upper level leaks have been kind of going to Gurman, and maybe his sources have dried up. And so, where does that leave you if they're clamping down on information leaks that are going out? There's a time I thought, well, this is intentional. This is just Apple's way of getting information out. It still might be, but his track record has been pretty poor, even with the last week talking about what devices were going to be released. It's almost, yeah, we know we know a new MacBook is up with an M4, a MacBook Air. So let me predict that. I mean, it's not too hard to predict stuff, but getting the dates and getting the times and the about it, when it's going to be released now or later in the summer, those details haven't been there recently for him. And because of that, he's gotten some things messed up. So I don't quite understand these articles about Vision Pro with serious upgrades. And then they
I'm not
talk
sure.
about,
I don't know what an unserious update would be.
An Apple Intelligence update, probably.
yeah, and this is
yeah,
a macrumors article that combines both iOS 19 and VisionOS 3. I'm sorry,
yeah.
Eric, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say the Apple Vision Pro as a platform pretty much screams out to have some sort of interactive, voice controlled interaction. I mean, everything else you have easy to use virtual keyboards or Bluetooth keyboards or other devices. The Apple Vision Pro, really, you've got your hands, some gestures, and your voice and questions and answers. And it really does kind of need that extra little bit of interactive help, and things like wanting to send a message to a particular person or to text a particular person or get directions to somebody's house or to a location's house, and a lot of that doesn't quite work right, or if you happen to not have a really good set of contacts, it doesn't work quite right. So it wouldn't surprise me if over the next year or so contacts get updated quite a bit more. Maybe they have to come up with some sort of personal information or a way of tagging certain things, or certain people, so that it's easier to tell what element, like if somebody needs to be texted versus called, or if they've got two or three addresses, knowing which one to reference, uh, that would be a lot easier. Or some sort of kind of preview. I want to go and have you do a bunch of actions, but I want to know what you're going to do before you actually do it, so that it doesn't go to the wrong person. Because so there's a lot of possibilities for having things all of a sudden look much more complete.
Yeah.
Whether we get it or not, who knows? But I have hopes.
Well,
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
No, yeah, I was just trying to think, like, in thinking about what's realistic that would be huge. And okay, we actually do have Apple Intelligence. I think that means we will get App Intense support. And to piggyback off of what you were saying, like, more help with interacting with the interface, that screams App Intense to me, which is Apple Intelligence. So I could that could be a very huge upgrade for the usability of it there. And then I'm wondering too, if having this product out in the world now for over a year, if they could have done some big data to perhaps improve the eye and hand tracking for input
Hmm.
recognition and to like smooth
Yep.
that out, make it more precise, perhaps. Less false positives. I mean, I know I'm accidentally clicking stuff while I'm watching a YouTube video and folding laundry. like maybe they've been able to improve a lot of those kind of things too as well. And those are both extremely realistic things that very well could be this year. Um, and I would classify that as a big deal.
A few more articles. Again, uh, writing about something that they have no idea based on the little that Mark Gurman has tossed out, which is, hey guys, there's going to be something big happening, almost a Tim Cook announcement. But 9 to 5 Mac jumped on the bandwagon with this, planning a featured pack Vision 03 update. Quoting Gurman throughout. Very short article. All signs are pointing to the company's Vision Products Group shifting its resources to other form factors. But Apple can't just let the Vision Pro die out. It has invested too much and needs to keep churning out the device's VisionOS updates. The third edition will be pretty feature-packed release, I'm told. My other favorites, Upload, picked up on the same article about Vision OS and talked about it being a feature-packed release. But here's the one I love the most: Android headlines. Vision OS 3 will be feature-packed update despite the lackluster sales. Uh,
Oh, shots fired. Nice
I
try,
know.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Show me what you got, Android. And again, quoting Gurman's comments there. Um,
Hmm.
no surprise, don't expect a new Vision Pro 2 this year. And of course, for the article, they have a picture of the prototype of the Samsung, which we'll talk about in a minute. And they're quoting Mark Gurman. Guess what? We're not going to have it this year. They're going to focus on software updates. So it's another way to rewrite an article about the Vision Pro not coming and building in this logic around the future packed third upgrade that we're going to have, rehashing some of the stuff around the M series chip and when we're going to see this. This is Mac Observer that said that. So, what can you say? Um, Two articles, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this. Uh, Apple's smart glass is still a distant possibility as Apple considers its wearables future. And this is coming out of Apple Insider. And then, of course, hooking in Gurman's comments this last week. They talk about the hurdles that they have to overcome and say it's impossible. What are your thoughts on glasses?
No.
First of all, would you buy one? Nope.
I'll,
Depends what it's gonna be like. Like if it's like I've mentioned the Even Realities products a number of
Yeah.
times. And if it was like an Apple version of that, yeah, I definitely would. Especially since, the three of us already being glasses wearers, I'm game for anything as an improvement. Um, Anything that would be mildly useful would be nice. But I think I want more than Meta Ray-Ban's functionality
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. I would
for my everyday glasses. Yeah.
I would probably purchase them in a skinny minute. because I assume Apple would do something more or different than just the Meta Ray Bans. If it could get anything like Google Glass was, where I was getting information on one of the parts of the glass screen, it wasn't really glass screen with Google Glass, but it was a prism that angled out uh, a small monitor screen, I guess you'd say, that would give you text,
Hmm.
and then you had touch capabilities on the glasses to be able to act on those notifications, emails, things like that. Yeah, I'd buy it in a skinny minute. Um, I don't wouldn't that's what I would be wearing walking around town for notifications and for information versus wearing a full a Vision Pro headset. So yeah, I think it would be a nice kind of mid-range product from between nothing and the full Vision Pro headset. So
Hmm. Well, you know, when they were talking about different form factors, and
yeah,
then the article leapt to the glasses might still be here. Yeah, that could just be adding cameras to AirPods, or
yeah,
sensors to other devices, and has absolutely nothing to do with anything else. But when you combine a bunch of different products together, you get different functionality.
yeah, yeah. I think that will be interesting if they. I can't imagine cameras on earpods, but I can imagine them being hooked into in a different way the Vision Pro headset. Here's something that should make all Samsung users weep. This came out of Tom's Guide this last week. New Samsung XR headset report tips mass production for April, but I'm worried about the price. It could be around what's that magic number? What's that tipping point? $3,500. Um, so I guess all of the Samsung people will have to stop bitching about how expensive Vision Pro is.
No, they'll just
Mm.
quietly stop talking about it and stop being critical and then
Yeah.
just accept it on their end. I actually have a question for you guys, since you were
Mm.
far more alive and conscious than I was when I had my first computers. But I know that they were quite expensive for me and my family. Um, and I mean, to be fair, this is the '90s for me. But
Hmm.
like, think back for you guys when you would see consumer computers. I mean, there's no way they weren't expensive as hell.
Yeah.
Were people talking in the same way about it? Like essentially like first gen home user computers, close to what would was modern day computer. I'm certain people were saying the same things, and guess what? The first versions of new stuff is always expensive.
Yeah, I can remember getting my first computer, and it was when I was in my master's program, so 1980, and
Mm.
I got a PC. It had what did it have? It had I think 60 megabytes of storage, or yeah, I think it was around 60 megabytes. It was a 386 PC, and
Mm.
it cost $1,400. Now that's $1,400 in 1980 time. With my wife and I both being new, not having not having disposable income. Period. But I got that device. It had a small floppy disk in it. It had a large floppy disk in it, and then the monitor was something separate from the device itself. And it was really, considering where we were in our life and our time and the cost of it, it was really, do should we really get this? It was a bit of an expense. And I don't know how we did it, but we did get it. I do know shortly thereafter, a year later, I increased the hard drive size to 120 megabytes, and that cost me $350 to buy the drive and have it installed. So think about that in today's world with how computers are. Yeah, I mean, I eventually got a copy of Windows, which I was able to run on it. It was the first version of Windows. And yeah, they were expensive. The first gens and early things are always expensive. And
Yeah.
probably the worst version of the product you're ever going to buy after that.
And Justin in the chat makes a good point that this isn't really first gen VR either, which fair. And also the computers Marty was just talking about weren't really first gen either there too, but
Yeah.
I think it'd be fair to say at that time as well, it was still a very niche item for the consumer market, and I'd still kind of align them kind of like
Hmm.
at the same state in their progression to becoming mass market consumer items. Um, I think that's kind of a fair comparison. And also, I think the difference between the VR that we've had up till now, I don't know, just I can't articulate it. I'll probably think of it after a bit more coherent thought here. But I just feel like it's a different category adjacent to VR. It would with the Vision Pro and the Samsung one, and I'll even lump in HoloLens. Um, what's another one? I can't remember the name of right now. I'll even lump them into that category as well. Um, Yeah, I mean, it just makes me wonder, I mean, the price has to come down, obviously, yes, and it will always. Technology, that's what it do. Uh, um, but the emphasis on it when I feel like it's the inappropriate time in its lifespan is it's just kind of interesting me lately, and part of me is thinking maybe it's more because it's not as something that people look at as essential like a computer. It's a toy.
Mm.
And that's people's impressions of headsets in general, because they're just thinking of gaming.
Right.
Um,
And
so may
This Tom's Guide article ends off with saying, you really should just get a Quest or a Quest 3. And it's sort of like, well, that's a different item. And
Yeah, it depends who you're asking.
I can't believe
Yeah.
tech writers still can't seem to get that straight and make that false comparison. You know, I don't know.
We'll see. You guys gonna get one of those? I might. I might.
No, I don't. Unfortunately, I guess, I could say, well, I should do it for the good of the podcast. But frankly, I'm, every time I buy an Android product, it doesn't last very long in my household because I'm so much into the Apple ecosystem. It's like, well, why do I need to get my mail on this? When it's not going to help me on other devices. So yeah, so probably not. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
pay
fair.
attention to it and we'll get as much information and good information as we can. But I'm just frustrated again. Tom's Guide, who generally has some good information, but poor writing in terms of thinking about how to compare this device. We got a couple of short articles and then we'll get into apps. And this is a link that I found, which I thought was pretty cool. Apple Vision Pro on a plane. And I don't know if either of you have used,
I think we found the source of Marty's audio issue.
what's that?
I think it was when you started the video. I think it cut out.
Well, no, I mean, I cut the video on it because I don't want to deal with,
Oh,
any issues with
yeah.
YouTube.
Never
I
mind.
cut the audio on the video, but have any of you, it's a pretty good video. We'll have the link in the show notes where the guy talks about his experience of using it and goes through a bunch of things that he can do on the plane while he's doing it. Have either of you used this on a plane yet?
Not yet.
Oh,
I haven't traveled. I'm hyped
it's
for it though. I'm ready for it.
it is so cool to use it on a plane. You think when I first used it, it was the week after it came out, and I thought I was doing a trip to Portland from Cleveland, and I thought, oh, this is such a nerd factor. Everybody's going to stare at me. I got no attention, which was fine. I don't like it, but was kind of fully immersed and enjoying it. So that is a YouTube video that again we'll put the links on the in the show notes so you can watch this. But it is a pretty cool demonstration of what you can do with your headset on the plane. So let's talk about apps. And y'all look at the apps that y'all put up. Tubular Pro. Who wants to chat
Yeah, I put
about
that
that?
one. I
Okay,
saw
Dan.
this guy on Discord put it up today on test flight. It's a YouTube client. I've been in dire need of something to replace Juno. Um, Nothing else so far I felt was any real good. Unfortunately, you can't really see many screenshots on the test flight page, but hey, that's there if you guys want to go download it. I think he has some screenshots on his Reddit post, which is linked in the show notes too.
Yeah.
But it's a YouTube client. It's still new and fresh. He's still working on it, but it works well. But the notable thing for me, which was really cool, was it has a head tracked mode. So the window pops out. So imagine picture in picture, like on your computer, but it's
Mhm.
in your headset, and I just have the video there, and I can adjust where it exists in my peripheral, and it's just completely head tracked, follows me around everywhere I go. Really cool, especially since one of my big use cases is watching YouTube videos while folding laundry or like doing other chores. And sure, I can drag the window around with me wherever I go, but that's one thing. But it's another thing to have it head tracked, following me in my top right hand of my
Mhm.
vision.
Huh.
Awesome. Um, Really cool. Works well enough, especially for something so new. That feature in particular needs some tweaks because like I can hold it like extremely still, don't move, and that thing is still shaking like crazy. Like I'm just like shaking. So like it just needs some kind of like dampening factor on how it reacts quickly. It reacts to any motion. But even then, even saying that, is it mildly distracting? Yes. Distracting enough to not use it? No. So it can only get better, and I really like it. The only thing I hate about it is that to be able to do that head track mode is it means it's an immersive app for the head tracked mode. The normal mode, it's a shared app mode, which is fine. But I know that my complaint there, that's not on him. That's an Apple thing. That's just they don't have like a way to do that in a shared space app yet, to my knowledge. But fine. It makes my, like I said, really improving my laundry folding right now. So
Yeah, Justin in the chat room said that sounds like a very cool app. Who put up Immersive Bliss as an app?
Oh, I put that one up.
it's funny.
I
I was
thought,
going to put that up
wow.
too, and I swear I was like, did we talk about this before? I don't know, but yeah, I've seen this one too. But you go ahead.
Yeah, I think we did
'Cause-
talk about it before, but go ahead, Eric. You saw it and
yeah, but I hadn't had a chance to try it, so I figured I would comment on what I tried. So, and you're right. it has a bunch of different videos and not too expensive. You can try them out. Um, I don't have a fast enough network speed to stream it, so I have to download it. Takes a little while. Um, the um, the way they have it set up, you're like basically in the front row. Different venues, so there's some variety, but you're not like up so close to the person that you're not comfortable. It was just about right. The one comedian I was watching, the sound was a little bit too quiet. They filmed everything with 8K video, upscaling it to 12K using a Topaz AI. Some people complained that it was too blurry. I don't know if that's was from trying to stream it and not having or not. I mean, it wasn't crystal clear, but I didn't find it distracted me too much. I mean, if the comic is really good, it still was okay. Um, it would be really nice if they can upgrade the hardware they're using to shoot. Um,
Hmm.
so hopefully it will continue to improve. But it was worth looking at, and I got to see people I would not never get a chance to go and attend a performance. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah, I looked at this when it first came out. They only had like one or two performances in there, and it was of two comedians that I never had heard of. And I don't follow comedians like other folks, so I'm probably not the best judge of that. Um, One of the comments I saw was this could be a really great opportunity for comedians to get some kind of exposure where they wouldn't get it in any other way. I'm curious about the magic, um, and the cost of being able to do this is not that expensive. We talked about Primo as a interesting platform where you can purchase 18 minutes of a band doing their
Hmm.
thing, in immersive and spatial video recording. So I'm hopeful that we'll see more of this happening, where there's more content, not necessarily produced by Apple, but produced as part of an app or a product line.
And hopefully in
Uh,
a way where they make enough money they can keep doing it.
yeah, yeah. I'm concerned about Primo because it got a great lead story and it's been out for a little bit now, and the response has all been good with it, but I'm checking in and I'm not seeing new product, and I'm wondering if that's going to be a struggle for them to produce it and get it out in a timely fashion so their app stays fresh with new product. So same sort of thing with Immersive Bliss. I'm happy to see it's got a much larger catalog than when I first looked at it. Uh,
Yeah.
let's go on to Vibescape. This is the one that I said I tried today. And
Hmm.
it was on my Vision Pro already. So I'm quite wondering whether or not I bought it and then just never used it or talked about it. Eric, did you post that or was it
Yes.
Daniel?
No.
Okay.
I did a bunch of kind of testing out, and they had a new Birch Grove environment that is
Yeah.
was more immersive. I tried a bunch of the different environments. One of them, there's like a background image with a square video playing, um, that is more like having a projector in the middle. I did not find that very relaxing, but it was nice and clear. The birch environment um, was rendered all the way around. The trees had leaves that moved and stuff. The audio was good. I did really appreciate that when it dropped you into the immersive environment, it wasn't fully immersive. So
Yeah.
it's not like I fell into a space where I couldn't see anything around me, because I've done it occasionally where I've made not realizing that it would be an immersive environment where I've been standing somewhere or whatever, and I go to turn to and I can't figure out where I am, and I have to break out of the environment and go find a safe spot. This seemed like it was a much more relaxing way to do it, and then you could turn up the immersion after you were in the spot. I like that, and I hope more apps start doing something like that. Um, I There only seemed to be one environment that was fully covered all around, but there were variances in how they did it. So I don't know if they're just trying a couple different things, but it
Yeah.
seemed to work.
I played with it when I saw it come up as well, I didn't know you had added it to the show notes, and I saw it come up as a new app, and I looked at it, and I'm like, okay, well, let me take a look at this, and then I went to download it, only to find out that I already owned it, um, and went into it and saw some interesting things. Depending on what you choose, like if you just choose, I think it's like Korean gong or Korean bells,
Hmm.
that's going to limit your experience to 1 minute. So then they have other sorts of, you know, guided imagery, I would assume, and those are at different lengths or at longer lengths. You can do silent meditation with it, and you can set it up to 30 minutes. You can set whatever point you want to start it and stop it. Of course, because it's not providing you anything, it's providing you silence and the timer. So, different aspects of the settings. First, you have to choose the environment you want to do it in. I was doing the what they call the haystacks, or the tall, sort of offshore island,
Yeah.
or I wouldn't even call them islands, shaped like haystack rocks, and sitting there and doing the Korean gong and other things with it. But you can choose the environments, and they have some really good environments. I did notice, and I did like the fact that I didn't enter a fully immersive environment, but you turn the crown to kind of expand it, or turn the crown down. But it puts you in enough of it that you can make a decision if you're where you are and how much you want to extend your immersive environment. So I thought I will return to this app and spend some time with it, because I think, next to Trip, which is my favorite. It's expensive, but it's my favorite app on the Vision Pro for meditation and relaxation. The visuals on it are incredible, and the experience is minimalist, which is good too. I don't like people telling me stories about drifting off on clouds. Um, I'm not into those guided imagery stories that they do on these things. And it's not how I meditate. So, Trip was my favorite. This is an interesting kind of slap it
Yeah.
on your head and do it for a little bit. Do it in the morning and do it in the evening, and that's very cool. Daniel, is this part of your karma? Do you do any of this meditative stuff?
My therapist would say I should, and my psychiatrists. I I aspire to. How about that? I mean, actually, I did write it down to download Vibescape and give it a shot again. I did give the built-in one some tries
Yeah.
though too, as well, just because. Um, so
Try
not really,
Trip.
but I aspire to. Yeah, that one too. I
Try
wrote that
Trip.
down to try too.
Yeah, it's a little complicated to kind of navigate. And some of the cool stuff that I found in Trip requires memory, because you have to remember what it was to go back
Mm.
to it if you want to use it again. But there's lots of options in that. And it is trippy, in a lot of good ways, and very relaxing. But I like this. I like this kind of pick an environment. I haven't tried the woods. I can see why, Eric, you went for that one first, living where you live, and being focused on nature in terms of your interest. I'll have to go back and try that. Um, and see what that's like. One last one. I don't know who put this up. I kind of assume it was Eric based on the topic of it. Um, Greenify.
Yeah. It seemed like it could be really nice.
Yeah,
You know how in the pictures here it looks like maybe some big huge disaster happened and plants took over the world?
right.
I don't really find that relaxing. So, but I thought I'd try it anyway, right? Because if you can put the plants where you want them, that's not so bad. I have no idea exactly how you get the plants to go where you think the plant should go, but I was sitting in one spot and minutes later I couldn't see the room around me because of all the plants growing up and around. Then I looked up and there was like some rock button thing, and so I tapped that thinking, oh, I'll get like a selection of new plants. And instead it cracked open and I had butterflies everywhere. Like, not too bad, but it was like kind of like cabbage butterflies, which I don't want because of my garden. So I was stressed by feeling trapped, like the plants were all coming to get me, and then I got butterflies I wasn't sure if I really wanted. And then I was doing okay though, and still trying to figure out how to throw plants at a wall further away. And then I got the buzzing of bees, but I couldn't see the bees. I just got the buzzing, and I wasn't 100% sure were the real bees and some plant I had just brought in kind of had bees in it, or were they, you know? And then I saw little insects flying by, but the insect that flew by, the sound of it didn't match the sound I was hearing. That I found kind of disturbing. Um, and then as I was trying to throw my hand at the walls to see and see if I can move plants around, evidently I accidentally squished a butterfly, and then I had dead butterflies on my hand. Uh, there were a couple butterflies that flew up and landed on my finger, like in the Apple demo, but this was like squished
That's
bugs.
that's pardon the pun. That's not a bug. That's a feature. If you can like, this is the
Oh my
smashing
god.
butterflies. This is the
I'm not
smashing
sure if it was.
butterflies app.
I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Vibescape, I found that relaxing.
Well,
Greenify was the opposite.
I can't look into your soul and determine whether or not you crushed that butterfly intentionally or not. The reality is you crushed that butterfly.
And I have to live with that. And I.
You would make a terrible Buddhist. Uh, anyway, Daniel,
Did
thoughts?
the only thought, well, first of all, one, that's the level of immersion I'm looking for. um, Number two, I just find it extremely interesting that this app was made by Deloitte.
Deloitte? Oh,
Deloitte, like the business and ops kind of people.
yeah.
Like, what? Okay, interesting. And I
Yeah,
and
well,
I was like,
it's
I wanted to
Belgium.
confirm.
It's Deloitte, Belgium. So that's the author on it supposedly, but then it's copyrighted by Deloitte.
Yeah, and you go to the website link at the bottom, the dev website, it's proper Deloitte. Like it just been their Belgium branch.
That somebody decided, let's make. To me, it's too post-apocalyptic. I've seen, and then there's this app or there's this subreddit on Reddit called Abandoned Buildings. And, it's basically
Yeah.
pictures of abandoned buildings with plants growing all over them. And that's what this feels like to me. It's not like, would you like a few nice plants in your office environment that's a little sterile? No, it feels like um, you've been dead for a week or more, and they finally show up, and the house is full of overgrowth in plants.
This
But is
almost
a pl-
felt like somebody had a game property and they released it as this.
I was thinking of The Last of Us. Because, yeah, I mean, the game and the TV series, yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to try this now just to squash butterflies.
Yeah, if you come back and tell me that you can't squish them, and I accidentally experienced it and have butterfly blood all over my hands for no reason, I will be
Yeah.
disappointed. It certainly was not intentional.
Well, I think that's a wrap for the show. Thanks, guys. It's been fun every time Eric has, been with us, and Daniel, you're joining us a lot, and it's just fun. You each bring some really cool stuff in terms of conversation. Daniel, you bring cool stuff in from your direction. Eric is paying much more attention than I am to some of this stuff, and so he always has some great insights. So thank you for being part of that. We've had Justin Baker and also Gern Blanston, and for a while we had Chuck Joyner in there from Mac Voices. He might still be in there, but he's been quiet. And other folks in the chat room. So it's great to have visitors in the chat room. You can find the chat room on Monday nights on YouTube at youtube.com/@ Vision Profiles, and that will take you to the live stream for the show as we do it. You can find us also on various pod services because we'll convert the audio into a podcast and we'll have the video edited down and on YouTube if you want to watch the video. You can get those, you get the podcasts on YouTube if you want to also. So thank you for tuning in. We would love to hear from our listeners at any time. We've had some great comments coming up post YouTube from folks adding information and also adding contents. If you have ideas or you want to join an episode, email us at visionprofilespodcast@gmail.com. Our bumper music is Free Jazzy by Steve Combs, courtesy of the Free Music Archive. You can learn more about Vision Profiles podcast at our website, thepodtalk.net. Spread the word to other visionaries. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.